All right, so today we're doing a deep dive into the world of Abigail Johnson.
Abigail Johnson, yeah.
You know,
Big name.
huge.
Yeah.
The woman at the helm of Fidelity Investments.
Right.
Forbes estimates her net worth to be somewhere around $35.6 billion.
Wow.
It's a lot of zeros.
That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. But, you didn't come here to talk about billions, did you?
No, not just the billions.
No, we're going deeper. You sent over some really interesting articles about Abigail Johnson.
Fascinating woman.
Yeah. And I got to say, I was hooked.
Yeah.
Immediately.
What is it about her, right?
I know. So we're going to unpack this whole powerful woman thing.
Yeah. Powerful woman. We hear that a lot.
We do.
But what's the story there?
Exactly. And see what we can uncover, just you and me, today.
Sounds good.
So
What's so captivating about Abigail Johnson is that she's not just like any CEO.
right.
She's practically like royalty in the financial world, right?
Well, it's a dynasty.
We're talking about a dynasty.
Yeah. It's a family business.
A family whose name is like intertwined with Fidelity itself.
Oh, absolutely. And it's incredible to even think about, like, her grandfather founded Fidelity.
Right, back when?
Back in 1946.
1946. That's wow.
And she's the third generation to lead the company.
It's in her blood.
It's got to be in the DNA at this point.
I think so, yeah.
And you talk about, like, the weight of that legacy.
Oh, I can't imagine.
I can't even fathom.
Yeah.
So let's rewind, right?
Right.
Let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Abigail's early days at Fidelity, what are we looking at?
All right. So she joins the family business officially in 1988,
Okay.
fresh out of Harvard Business School,
Of course, Harvard.
with her shiny new MBA.
Right.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
She didn't just waltz into the corner office, put her feet up on the desk.
Right, yeah.
She started as an analyst,
Really?
working her way up
Wow.
through the ranks,
Wow.
It's like she wanted to prove herself, even with that Johnson name behind her.
Earn stripes.
Earn those stripes.
It's not the typical path for, someone who could have easily, like you said, waltzed in.
Oh, absolutely not. A lot of people in her position, they'd be, on a yacht somewhere.
Right, exactly.
But not her.
But there's this story,
Oh, yeah.
and it's a little bit of a bombshell.
Yeah, a bit of family drama.
It involves her father.
Yeah.
So she's the president of Fidelity Asset Management at this time.
Right, working her way up, like we said.
And reportedly, she attempts to, rally support, right?
Yeah.
To remove her own father
Wow.
from his position as CEO.
That's a power move.
It is a power move.
Within the family.
To think about that. The audacity.
The sheer determination to even consider that.
I know, right?
It's amazing.
So it begs the question, what were those disagreements about?
Yeah, like what was the big issue?
What kind of vision did Abigail have for Fidelity that clashed so intensely with her own father's?
Yeah, you don't go to those lengths unless it's something you really believe in.
Right.
It makes you think.
It does. And it kind of gives you a little window, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Into her leadership style.
Yeah.
Even back then, fresh out of Harvard, she wasn't afraid to stand her ground.
No.
To fight for what she thought was best for the company.
For what she believed in.
Even if it meant going head-to-head with, her family.
Her own family.
And that seems to be a recurring theme, wouldn't you say?
Definitely a recurring theme. She doesn't back down. And, we see this later on, too, this willingness to challenge the norm, do things differently.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, case in point, cryptocurrency.
Oh, yeah, that was a big one.
2018, she brings cryptocurrency investment to Fidelity.
Not exactly what you'd expect from, such a traditional company.
Right. They're known for their more, by-the-books approach,
Exactly. Fidelity, they've always been seen as, the steady hand,
Right.
Not exactly jumping on the latest trends.
Right. And here she comes, shaking things up.
Shaking things up.
I bet there's some good stories there.
I'm sure there are, yeah. But before we get ahead of ourselves,
Okay.
we got to talk about how she got there, right?
Okay. So, yeah, let's back up.
So she becomes president in 2012,
Okay.
CEO in 2014, and then finally the big chairman in 2016.
That is an impressive trajectory.
Yeah, even with the family name, that's not easy.
No, she wasn't just handed the keys, right, like you were saying earlier.
Exactly. She earned it every step of the way.
And let's not forget the context here.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah.
She's the first
First and only.
and only woman to achieve that level.
Yeah, at that time, right?
At that time, right?
To reach those heights of leadership in the financial services industry.
Which we know is...
notoriously male-dominated.
It's a boys' club.
Yeah, it's tough to break into.
That's a significant,
yeah,
barrier to break.
definitely speaks volumes about her ambition, her resilience.
It does. It makes you wonder about the pressure she must have faced,
Oh, I can only imagine.
Like the expectations, the scrutiny.
Just to prove herself constantly.
Right.
In a world that wasn't really built for her.
Yeah. You know what else I find really interesting about her?
What's that?
Her political leanings, they're all over the place.
Yeah, she keeps you guessing.
They really do. She doesn't fit into a box.
Which is refreshing, honestly.
It is, in a world that's always trying to put people into boxes.
Right, like you're this or you're that.
Exactly. So on one hand, we have her donating the maximum amount to Jeb Bush's presidential campaign back in 2015.
Okay, so more of the kind of, traditional side.
Right, exactly.
Observation.
But then 2016 rolls around.
Yeah.
She seemingly switches sides.
Wow.
She contributes a significant amount of money.
How much are we talking?
Over $300,000 to Hillary Clinton's campaign
Okay, so a considerable sum.
and the Democratic National Committee.
So not just a one-off, a pattern, maybe?
Interesting. Right.
Very interesting. It's like she's playing both sides.
It's not about party lines for her.
Mhm.
It seems like she's driven by something else, something more.
Individual policies, maybe.
Right. Or maybe specific candidates or...
Or maybe she just sees the bigger picture,
It's like she's making strategic decisions
Long game.
based on her own assessment of the situation.
Not just following the crowd.
And that makes you wonder, like, what were the driving forces behind her choices?
Right, like what are the issues that really get her going?
What policies resonated with her enough to warrant, that kind of financial support?
Yeah, that's a real statement.
It is. But it does tell us something, right?
Definitely.
This is somebody who thinks for herself,
An independent thinker.
carefully weighs her options.
Not afraid to go against the grain.
And it just kind of makes you even more curious about her decision-making process, right?
Absolutely.
Not just in, the political sphere, but also in business.
Right, like how does she make these big decisions?
Exactly.
Like, what's her process?
What's going on in that brain of hers?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is.
And, one of the things that makes Abigail Johnson so fascinating is this, air of mystery around her.
Yes.
Despite this very public role, right?
Right.
Head of a massive company,
Constantly in the news.
she keeps her personal life remarkably private.
I know. It's amazing, right?
In this day and age, it's almost unheard of.
It's like refreshing.
It is refreshing, yeah. You've got CEOs out there tweeting about their breakfast cereal.
I know.
And then you've got Abigail, like, nope, not my style.
Right. Like, good for her.
Exactly, good for her.
We know the very basics.
Right.
She's been married since 1988 to Christopher McCown.
Okay,
They've got 2 children.
2 kids, nice.
But, that's it.
That's it.
That's really all we know.
Wow, that's surprising.
It is. In a world where everyone seems to share everything online,
Oh, I know, right?
it's almost jarring how little we know about her personal life.
You'd think there'd be more out there,
You would think.
especially with someone so powerful, someone so in the public eye.
You'd think there'd be, paparazzi chasing her down the street.
Right, like, Abigail, what's your skincare routine?
Exactly. But there's nothing.
It's like she's invisible.
It really is. It's almost like she's saying, judge me by my work,
Judge me by the impact I make,
not by who I have dinner with.
not by what my house looks like.
Right.
Oh.
Or what she eats for breakfast.
Right, because who cares?
It's refreshing. I like it.
It's a nice change of pace.
It is. It is. And speaking of impact, let's talk about her board memberships.
Oh, yeah, she's not just sitting in her ivory tower at Fidelity.
No.
She's out there in the thick of it.
Okay, so get this. Committee on Capital Markets Regulation.
Okay, important stuff.
Board of Directors for the Securities Industry and Financial Markets Association.
That's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. We'll call it SIFMA for short.
SIFMA, I like it.
And, Anne, are you ready for this?
Hit me.
MIT.
MIT.
Wow. The board of MIT.
That's impressive.
It's a big deal.
Clearly, she's interested in more than just, making money.
Right.
These positions, they give us a glimpse into her other passions, her priorities, right?
Yeah. What do you make of that?
What can we learn from these affiliations?
Exactly.
Okay, well, take MIT, for example.
Yeah, MIT.
It suggests, maybe, a deep belief in education,
Okay.
in fostering innovation.
Right. Pushing boundaries.
And maybe even a desire to nurture those things outside the world of, Wall Street.
Beyond just the bottom line.
Exactly, beyond the bottom line. It's about more than just profits.
And this totally makes sense when you consider her own educational background.
Oh, yeah, we can't forget about that.
I mean, talk about prestigious institutions.
We're talking top tier.
Buckingham Brown.
Buckingham Brown, all right, fancy.
William Smith College for her BA.
Well-rounded education.
And then, of course, Harvard for her MBA in '88.
Harvard, of course.
Of course.
The trifecta.
It's like the best of the best.
The best of the best.
These are places that attract ambitious, driven individuals.
The go-getters, the future leaders.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how much of her worldview, her approach to leadership, was shaped by those experiences.
Absolutely. The people she met, the lessons she learned.
The ideas she was exposed
And
to.
it all adds up, shapes who you become.
Right, but, it's not just the education, it's also the connections, right?
Oh, yeah, the network.
The people you meet in those hallowed halls.
The movers and shakers.
Exactly. So clearly, education has played a very significant role in her life.
A central theme.
A central theme. I like that.
Yeah.
But that's not the only thing that stands out about Abigail Johnson, right?
No, there's more.
There's more. What really struck me, and I bet this is why you wanted to do a deep dive on her, was this whole cryptocurrency thing.
Oh, yeah, we got to talk about crypto.
We do.
That's a whole other chapter in her story.
It's a wild one.
A wild one indeed. It wasn't just bold, it was risky.
Risky. How so?
Well, think about it. It's 2018.
Okay, Bitcoin's big year, right?
Huge. Bitcoin had just hit like its all-time high, then crashed.
Oh, yeah, that was a wild ride.
And a lot of traditional investors, they're like, is this it? Is crypto just a fad?
Right, like a bubble ready to burst.
Exactly. So for Abigail to make that call,
Yeah.
to essentially bet, a chunk of Fidelity's future on this new technology, that was a gamble.
It was a gamble for sure.
Mm.
So these articles you shared, did they mention how that decision played out for Fidelity?
It was definitely a defining moment for her, I think, as CEO. You had critics, of course,
Oh, I bet.
questioning her judgment. Was this a step too far?
Right.
Would this, tarnish Fidelity's reputation,
I could see that, especially for those who, see Fidelity as this, bedrock of traditional finance.
Exactly.
This very, stable, reliable.
Yeah, the old guard.
And then here she comes, shaking things up with, digital currencies.
But then on the other hand, you had people who saw it as, genius, you
Right.
know?
Oh,
Like
okay.
she was making sure Fidelity wouldn't get left behind. Like she was embracing the future of finance.
So who was right?
Well, like most things with finance, it's complicated.
Of course, of course.
The crypto market, it's a roller coaster.
Oh, tell me about it. Ups and downs and downs and ups.
But here's the thing. Because she was an early adopter,
Right.
she made sure Fidelity was at the table.
At the table, yeah, I like that.
They were learning, adapting,
Smart.
positioned to benefit if crypto really was the future.
Okay, so it was a calculated risk.
For sure. Calculated, but still a risk.
It does make you wonder what was going through her mind at that time.
I know, right? What kind of conversations were happening?
Behind closed doors.
What was the decision process?
What was the pushback like, even internally?
Yeah.
Those are the details I would love to know.
Oh, the juicy details.
The behind the scenes.
Right. Who was for it? Who was against it?
Exactly.
Unfortunately, that's all kind of, still a mystery.
Of course.
Abigail's decision-making process, it's like her personal life,
Very private.
Shrouded in mystery.
So we can only speculate.
We can speculate, yeah.
Yeah.
Based on what we know.
Okay, I'm game. What do we have?
Okay, let's see. We've got family legacy, right? Impressive rise to power, willingness to embrace those bold moves.
Crypto, yeah.
Crypto, exactly. And keeping her personal life private.
Which, in this day and age, is almost a superpower.
It really is. But there's another thread here.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is it?
Education.
Oh, right. We were just talking about that.
From her own background, those Ivy League schools.
Right.
To her being on the MIT board, that's not a coincidence.
She seems to really value education.
Deeply, I think. I think she sees it as like an investment in the future.
Which makes sense in a way, right? If you're looking at long-term growth and innovation.
Exactly.
I actually remember reading in one of the articles that she's a big supporter of early childhood education initiatives.
Really?
Yeah, like expanding access, improving quality, especially for underserved communities.
Interesting. That's not just about, writing a check.
No, it seems like a genuine passion project.
Like she's putting her money where her mouth is,
It makes you wonder, did that belief in education, in critical thinking, innovation, did that influence her decision with crypto?
That's a good question. It's like maybe she saw it as Not just a financial opportunity,
Right.
but a chance to support a technology that could, change things.
Democratize finance.
Exactly. Make it accessible.
Interesting.
It fits with what we know about her, right? Thinking outside the box, challenging the status quo, betting on the future.
Yeah. Okay, so let's zoom out for a second.
Big picture.
We've covered a lot. Family, legacy, leadership, crypto, education, keeping things private.
It's a lot.
If you had to choose one word to describe Abigail Johnson based on what we've learned.
Oh, one word. That's tough. She's complex.
It is. She is.
But I think I'd go with enigmatic.
Woo! I like that.
A little mysterious.
She's a puzzle, a mystery.
Wrapped in a billion-dollar fortune.
Exactly. We get these glimpses into her life, her decisions, but the full picture, it's elusive.
And that's part of what makes her so fascinating, right? It keeps us guessing.
It does. So what do we explore next in our quest to understand Abigail Johnson?
Well, we've talked about how she broke barriers in a male-dominated field.
Right. The first woman to reach those heights in the financial world.
But what were those challenges really like?
You mean like beyond just the obvious?
Yeah, what obstacles did she face that, maybe weren't so visible?
Right, because it's not always about outright discrimination, right?
Exactly.
It's the subtle stuff, the unspoken barriers that can be just as difficult to overcome.
Those double standards, the expectations.
In her case, you've got that added layer of the family legacy.
Right. The weight of the Johnson name.
Did that help her or hinder her?
That's the question, isn't it?
It's like she's playing chess on multiple levels.
Yeah, I know, right? The business, the family, the whole gender dynamic.
And then this rapidly evolving financial landscape.
Yeah.
Cryptocurrency thrown in the mix.
It's a lot to handle.
It's a lot for anyone to handle.
And yet she does it with this, quiet confidence.
It's true. It's like she's got this unwavering determination.
Like she's saying, I'm here to make my mark on my own terms.
There's that intentionality again.
Right.
She's strategic, deliberate, like a chess master.
Thinking several moves ahead.
Always.
And that's what makes her so compelling, She's not loud, not flashy, but she's undeniably powerful, lets her actions speak for themselves.
Yes, they do.
And I think it shows that you don't have to fit into a certain mold to be a leader.
You don't have to be the loudest voice in the room.
Exactly.
So what's the takeaway here? What have we learned about Abigail Johnson today?
I think it's that true leadership, it's not about fitting in.
It's about standing out.
It's about having the courage to forge your own path.
Even when it's uncertain, even when it's challenging.
Exactly. And Abigail Johnson, she embodies that.
She really does. It's been fascinating, this deep dive.
It has. She's a fascinating figure.
This financial powerhouse, this enigma.
Who continues to intrigue.
Thanks for joining me on this journey into the world, according to Abigail Johnson.
My pleasure.
It's like you said, navigating a minefield, but you can't see the mines.
Exactly. It's not always those big, obvious obstacles.
Right.
It's the subtle stuff, the assumptions, the expectations.
And those can be just as hard to overcome, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's like you're constantly battling against these invisible forces.
So how much do you think that played a role in Abigail's story?
I mean, it's hard to say for sure, but you can't ignore it, right?
No, definitely not. I mean, here she is, a woman in this incredibly powerful position.
A position that, let's be honest, was mostly held by men for decades.
Exactly. And then you layer on the family legacy, the weight of the Johnson name.
Right. Did that make things easier or harder for her?
I know. It's like a double-edged sword, right?
Absolutely. On the one hand, it opens doors, gives you instant credibility.
But then there's this pressure to prove yourself, to live up to those expectations.
And to maybe even overcompensate, to show that you're not just there because of your family name.
Exactly. It's like she's constantly having to navigate these competing forces.
It's a balancing act, for sure. And, we can't forget about the other challenges she's facing at the same time.
Right, like running a multi-billion-dollar company in a rapidly changing industry.
With all the technological disruptions, the global economic shifts, the competition.
And then she throws crypto into the mix, just for fun.
Right, like, hold my beer, watch this.
Seriously. It takes a certain kind of person to handle all of that with such, grace and composure.
She's got this quiet confidence, like she knows what she's doing, even when the rest of us are scratching our heads.
It's pretty impressive when you think about it. So where do we go from here? What have we learned from diving deep into the world of Abigail Johnson?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. Leadership isn't about fitting into a box.
It's about breaking the mold.
Exactly. It's about having the courage to be yourself, to follow your own path, even when it's hard.
To chart your own course.
Exactly. And Abigail Johnson, she embodies that in so many ways.
She really does. It's been fascinating to explore her story, to try to unravel the enigma that is Abigail Johnson.
She's a reminder that the most interesting people are often the ones who defy easy categorization.
Who make us think, who challenge our assumptions.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good place to leave it for today.
I agree. Well, thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
My pleasure. Until next time.